Hi, this is Sarah from sarayip.com, Facebook The Numbers Queen, and Instagram sarayip1111 with my magical friend Melanie Spears, creator of the Gratitude Diary and also a Family Constellations practitioner, both extraordinary, amazing things. So, hi Mel.
Hey Sarah, good morning.
Oh, I'm so happy to do this with you. We have both had so much going on. So Mel is in the Northern Rivers. It's a bit of an epicenter there right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's full on actually, but really beautiful at the same time because the community is really coming together to support the process of rebuilding. So it's really beautiful.
I can feel it from here.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I first visited the Northern Rivers area after leaving school, how they told us on the bus tour to Nimbin, this was the most educated part of Australia. And that really affected me. I thought, wow, it's totally opened my mind when I saw all these hippies. And I didn't identify as one, but I went on to kind of adopt that lifestyle. So that was, that's actually true, isn't it? You've got incredibly educated, wise people all around that area who really, a lot of leaders, really.
I never thought of it like that, Sarah, in terms of education, because when you say the word education, my mind goes to, mainstream collective.
That's actually what he was saying. I still remember this. He said they have the most, I haven't verified. I'll go and check it after the interview, yeah. But the most degrees, the most qualified, or some of the most qualified people in Australia live in this area, and I had never considered it. It was completely outside my frame of reference. But ever since then, I've made a point to visit the Northern Rivers, especially when I feel I just need to rebalance myself, because you've got a lot of people there, and also there's still a lot of suffering. It's a lot of extremes in that one zone.
Yeah, but also just consider the other side of the word education, which essentially is wisdom. This is the area that during the age of Aquarius, when the hippies moved here in the 1960s to create a lifestyle that's a little bit outside of the matrix. So not only have we got educated people, but we've got people with great wisdom who have been living from a place of purpose and passion, as well as obviously educating themselves. So there is that wisdom body that lives here, especially the wisdom of women's knowledge, women's mysteries, men's work, the history of the land, Bunjalung awareness. So there's education in so many different levels.
I have the most goosebumps I've had in probably a year, and I mean I'm a goosebump lady, but my whole body is vibrating. That's why I'm so happy to talk to you.
Great.
So a couple of things jumped out at me, straight away. When I first discovered that whole area, which of course I love, how you've got the easternmost point of Australia, and I remember thinking that was kind of cool. The east, we associate it with mysticism, but it's also this idea of the leading edge. And they talked about also that it had this sort of beautiful climate, not too hot, not too cold, and that's why a lot of people moved to that Northern Rivers area. So I must say he was good at selling, and I mean I still remember his words. What's that? 23 years later. So here you are, in a way, you're sort of an ambassador or like a central pillar in that community, from what I've seen of you, Mel. So if it's okay, let's talk about your meditation practice.
Right.
So, when did you start meditating that you're aware of in this lifetime?
I didn't.
Oh, great! This interview is going super well.
And this is why I was really interested in doing this interview, because I'm not a meditator.
I'll just silently scream on the inside, and that's fine.
Right, because we'll go down a rabbit hole. So bear with me.
Yeah.
Some of us are born into a body and then spend a lifetime raising up from that body and connecting to, I guess, a higher realm or a different frequency from a body perspective. Most people, my journey was completely different. I've spent most of my life trying to come down from the cosmos to access my body and get grounded. So meditation is the last thing I would want to do. In fact, when I first moved to Byron Bay, I used to go to these meditation workshops, and I used to walk out screaming.
Oh, Mel. Oh, I love you. I've got to tell you, because as you know, I tune into everything all the time. So I woke up this morning, and firstly, I had this really strong feeling of gnomes and earth energy come in, and I went and took some earth essence from the Bushflowers range. Then my children turned on the TV, and it was all about gnomes digging for treasure, and that was interesting. Perfect. And then I literally had a voice saying to me that this idea of growing up is not valid for a lot of people, and that many of us actually need to grow down. So when you said that, I totally got it. I was like, I've been having this since 3 a.m. this morning. They were saying things like you need to grow out, grow around, grow in, grow down. Why is it always about up?
Yes.
So I feel like there's we've got a strong connection today, and it's going to be a fabulous interview, even if it's not exactly what I.
It's going to be perfect. It's perfect.
So what you said to me is meditation leaves you screaming. Oh God, I love that. And I think I'll mention at this point, so I have read for you, you're a 26/8 life path. So you're here to be the boss and to play God or goddess. And so you're here to disrupt cycles and help people get back into balance with their higher self, which of course you seem to be doing within the first few minutes of this chat.
Yeah, I disrupt a lot of cycles.
Oh, you sure do. You apple cart turning over person. I love it. And I'm making a point to interview all kinds of people for this meditation series. I really want to actually show the rainbow possible.
Yes.
Because I think each person will then find their niche. So, thank you for being part of the experiment. Okay. So we didn't start meditating consciously in this lifetime, but who knows, maybe you just came in with that switch turned on, or at a, really high volume.
No. So this is what I've discovered about me and about lots of people, really. There's a huge proportion of, we talked about this region, there's a huge proportion of this region that have come here seeking connection.
Yeah.
And even if they don't really know that they're here seeking connection, ultimately we've got fragmented souls who are here seeking healing. And, healing in its larger form is connection. So what I notice a lot about the New Age movement and about, this area and about the journey, so much so, is that people are looking up for their salvation. And what I feel a lot is that is, if there's trauma sitting in the cells of the body, then to meditate and go up into a higher frequency actually allows someone to disassociate from the trauma that's in the body. And so the problem with that is that if I walk into a room where there's disassociated people sitting together, to me that's like walking into a war zone.
Oh, wow. I've been so I'm obviously just about to write about some current affairs. That's totally the topic. In fact, I started writing about it last night.
Great.
So I can relate to what you're saying. So I guess I'm going to just slightly change the questions then. What do you do for yourself when you find, I guess, you're getting out of balance then? If it's not so much a meditation, is there a type of energy healing or practice that you use that maybe we could talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. So having really tried for many years to meditate and really, trying to calm my nervous system by, rising above it, I changed my direction completely. And my focus became on my physical body more than everything. So, for example, if I got an ache or a pain or a feeling, I'd become the shaman almost and really take my attention into my body.
Yeah.
If my digestion's not working, I take my attention into my tummy. So it, for me, it's still a meditation, but it's more of an awareness movement. And what will happen is I'll normally, burp or release or, go through some sort of a kind of a physical sort of movement that then kind of heals or releases the part of my body that needs healing. So it's not about what's going on up there at all. It's about what's going on here, what's going on right outside my window. Someone said recently that we spend so much time looking up and looking toward the future, with our spiritual growth and potential future possibility, that we've actually forgotten that the matrix is right here all around us, and it's so exciting and so very stimulating, but very few of us are actually really aware of what's actually happening right in our garden.
Goodness me, you do have strong gnome energy, Mel. Yes, I hear you. I'm totally hearing you, and I get a lot of, I get a lot of pictures as you talk. So, part of the work I do is to help people to sort of, find their niche, whether it's their life purpose or what's going to help them stay sane. And it's true, isn't it, that we're taught to look up to people. Always look to your parents for guidance, direction, permission, and absolution. If it's not your parents, it's got to be the teacher, police person, the church person,
or a guru.
And we're always looking up.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there's an aspect of that I feel that is valid and interesting. But I personally, especially with the world as it is, I have found a lot of comfort just sitting with the children and, of course, the older people, the grandparents, because for me, they're literally closer to the ground.
Exactly.
They're closer to that life-death brink.
Yeah.
And when I look into, especially the children's eyes, I've got a baby who's 1, and I see the hope there for the humanity, that they're still coming here because they believe there's something to do for a good 50, 100 years. And that gives me breath. And that's not to say I don't absolutely love working with people of, different generations, but it has to be said that a lot of people in the middle are freaking out right now, and we have to kind of look, where has the energy moved?
Yes.
So I've been doing a lot of work with grandparents, grandchildren, and I found that to be very comforting for myself. And in fact, in a village environment, we would have those people to go to when we just got too stressed and we needed to get out of our heads.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, there are a lot of people freaking out right now, but at the same time, what's happening is, rather than looking up or looking out, this is a really great time to go within, and also to reclaim the wisdoms and the teachings that have been lost. And I'll give you an example of that. So I'm making soap right now.
I love soap, and I have a soap making kit Chris gave me, which I'll now have to dig out.
Yeah, beautiful. And what I've learned, and my grandmother's passed now, unfortunately, she passed 5 years ago, but as I'm getting into my soap making practices and I'm using recycled oils, I'm picking up oil from the cafes and cleaning it and making soap.
Wow.
So my mum tells me that grandma used to make her soap all the time. It was just a normal thing. And so soap's amazing because it's a combination of salt and fat. And it metabolizes, that's my word for it, exactly the same way that our human body metabolizes. So right, salt and fat, it's a combination. That's what drives and water, salt, fat and water. So the soap is exactly the same. It's salt, fat and water. So there's this alchemy that's happening in me making soap. So what happens is, as I'm engaging in the alchemy of life, which is based on all of Einstein's theories and the theories of everything, that I then move into a meditative state, because I'm engaging in a practice that is alchemy, and you need to be quite present to that in order to get it right.
Yes.
So that's my form of meditation, is being present with something, reality, to the degree where that starts to inform me.
Oh, I totally feel that. When did you start making soap?
Only at Christmas, just before Christmas time.
And what inspired you to make soap? Or who inspired you to make soap?
So being a fairy, I've not been able to use any products that you buy from Woolworths or Coles on my body at all.
Yeah.
So I have always had kind of anger against that and resentment around that, and thinking, how come I can't, why am I different? Why do I react?
Oh, I think that the video has paused itself. That's interesting.
That those things are way more poisonous to me than perhaps other people, or perhaps they're not, but maybe I'm just sensing and feeling it. So I just decided that I would make my own products, and just, Googled a few recipes and did a little workshop through the community college. And I discover that in our Western worlds, we are pretty much the affluent countries, the countries that actually use chemicals and pesticides in our body products. But places like Brazil and lesser affluent countries, they're still making their own soap.
Yeah.
So they're way healthier than us, because they're not ingesting all of those really harsh chemicals and products that basically toxify the body.
Well, that's so interesting. And I wanted to just mention that when you talked about anger, the screen froze. And that's something I experience in all my readings and classes, that when there's a strong emotion, for whatever reason, like the screen will show that. And it was just really interesting. It was just as you said it. And I love video because it captures this power of our words and our frequency.
Yeah.
And well, it's interesting, Mel, because of course soap touches the most private parts of us.
Exactly.
It sort of interacts with our pH balance, our immune system, our skin being the largest organ. Yeah. I also have had chronic skin issues since birth.
Wow.
Full body eczema, all kinds of things. And it's so fascinating that my friends always give me soap. And they always go hunting around the world to find these beautiful handmade soaps. I have actually quite a stash, and they just come from wherever people are. They'll just buy me these natural handmade soaps, and I get really excited, and I can't wait to have a shower and use them.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a lot of soaps now from all my clients.
Absolutely. And just
it's because I like being clean, because I have that silky soft skin, and I love water and baths, so I'm just a huge fan of literally cleansing.
Exactly. And think of it in terms of that we know that we have an auric body, we know that we have a spiritual body and a soul, and as you said, these products go inside us. So imagine if we're clearing and cleaning our auric field with a product that the intention behind that company has not come from love.
The intention is that you're dirty. It's interesting, isn't it? You yes. create the product in order to solve a problem, assuming that the person is a problem. And now that you talk about it, it really reminds me, my roots are environmental science, activism. In fact, my honors is in groundwater and water chemistry. Toxic water, actually.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it sounds like you and me will have to get together and do some sort of fun workshops, which is perfect.
Yeah.
If it's okay, I'm just going to ask you a couple more questions.
Sure.
So from what you said, I think you said, was it your grandmother kind of inspired you to make your soaps, and also your own body inspired you?
Yeah.
And you did do a course. And this might sound a bit strange, but where has that soap making process or some of your grounding processes really helped you through a crisis? For example, right now, or certain periods in your life?
It's beautiful, Sarah, because remember we started this conversation with the issue of connection. And I believe that if most people are wanting to meditate, they're either trying to connect to themselves or they're trying to connect to a higher source. But ultimately, it's about connection. So as I receive the alchemical recipes and lessons in making soap, I'm connecting to a science.
Yeah.
And as I connect to that science also lives inside my own body. So I'm being informed in a really personal and connected way to that science. And then I now I've got all of this soap. So this weekend I'm going over to to Lismore. They've got a beautiful big centre set up there, rescue centre with food and clothing. And so I'm taking all of my organic, 100% organic recycled soaps over to the centre to gift to other people. So to me, that's a system that I want to be a part of. You know, I don't want to go to Coles and buy a whole bunch of stuff that's a bit nasty to continue the problem, because as far as I'm concerned, that's the problem. And the solution is the love-based system, which is the way that our grandparents did it. You know, we've been healthy human beings up until about 200 years ago for centuries, and now we're kind of, you know, we're declining. So to me, it's a love-based system, and if I'm part of a love-based system, then I'm connected, and so I don't need to meditate if I'm connected.
You have a strong, beautiful energy, Mel. You have a strong, beautiful energy. I have to admit, I have, you know, we don't agree on everything, but gosh, I really love talking to you, and you're so interesting. And I love, you know, that you're using this product of your meditative process to then, you know, help some people who probably do feel a bit unclean and tainted and contaminated. And it's a soothing balm, isn't it? A soap is a soothing balm. I wanted to mention some numerology, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So soap, if you break it down into numbers, S is 1, O is 6, A is 1, and P is 7. So 17/8. So it's a number 8 vibration. So what goes around comes around. 17/8 is actually the vibration of God and karma. So that's kind of cute in a way. I'll have to think about that a little bit more, but it does make sense with what we've talked about of soap being this powerful energy tool. As much as I have to admit, I've never thought about it as much as I have in the last 20 minutes.
Sarah,
it only takes one conversation. But it makes sense. It makes sense what you're saying, and I'm really pleased we're talking about this, because it's true, isn't it? The greatest need for the people in the Northern Rivers is those washing machines and soaps, and just wanting to just get back into balance, because there's that sense of sort of being literally like dumped on.
Yeah, absolutely. They did a whole bunch of studies in a hospital to try and identify the cleanest areas in the hospital. And this has come back. It wasn't the theatre rooms. It wasn't the operating table. The cleanest area in the hospital was the hand washing bay, where the nurses actually washed their hands. And when we talk about the coronavirus and the pandemic, the hand sanitizers that we're using actually strips off the natural layers of the skin, and makes you very, very vulnerable to particles. Whereas soap, just simply washing your hands with soap, because it's got the fatty acids in it, and it is exactly the same sort of, I guess, our chemical balance as our human bodies, then the soap is the thing that protects us from viruses. So simply washing your hands is probably the most powerful thing you could do.
It's a beautiful meditation just to wash the hands, isn't it? Look, I've actually also heard that, and I'm happy to note that I've actually heard quite a lot of people talk about it's just about soap and water. So you don't really need to get fancy. And look, I did do a class on the vibration of coronavirus, so I'll just keep it so brief. But it has a 36/9 energy, and 9 is the same vibration as the word divine. Actually, it's about bringing the world together to rewrite history, to surrender to some sort of growth process. And look, there's no question it's been incredibly confronting and tragic as well. But 9 is about losing the fear of death.
Yes.
And when I do the word magic, which I'm hoping to do more and more with my work, you look at death, and 80% of that word is head. Then you've got the T, the consciousness of the head. So not trying to downplay the pain that we have gone through, but it's just super interesting when you apply things like word magic and numerology. There's this other layer that maybe allows you to breathe and just integrate what it is. So look, we're starting to wind up. Usually what I'd ask at this point is, do you have any tips for people who struggle to basically calm and ground and meditate? You might want to reword that yourself, Mel, but do you have tips for people? I mean, they might be people who are watching this video, or, they get told about it, or they come across your work. Do you have tips for those people who are struggling to basically simplify and be?
I do. The way I see it is that if you're living inside the matrix, which is inside, what I call the fake matrix, which is inside a job that you either don't like or that doesn't support your soul, or you're in a relationship that you either don't like or doesn't support your soul, or you're eating food that doesn't support your soul. If you're doing one of those three things, then most likely you're going to be creating your own anxiety as a pattern. So first of all, look at how you may be creating that anxiety, and eliminate those things. And then come over to the other matrix, which is the real matrix. And you do have anxiety, and you find it hard to settle. I actually really support the use of psilocybins and to get in touch with the natural realm.
Oh my goodness, there's more gnome stuff right there. Can you see? It's just like perfectly working out.
She's right there. Mother Nature is here, but we're not plugged into her. Most of us are not plugged into her deeply enough.
Yeah.
And so she's right here, and she has the balms. She has the calm. She has the bliss, and she has all of the medicine that you need. But we need to access her. So whatever you can do to access her, and as I said, there's plant food that allows you to see her more easily.
Oh, it just makes sense, because think about it like, a mushroom is it has a simple ambition, right? It's just here to clean up the forest floor. It doesn't need to be a redwood. It doesn't need to be on a postcard. Although nowadays, more and more people are celebrating the small beautiful things. But I've often felt like a mushroom. You're gonna laugh, or maybe not. When I was at school, I often got teased because of my skin and all kinds of things. I always got called mushroom face, and it would make me cry. But now that I look at it, I think it's hysterically funny, because there's nothing wrong with mushrooms. Mushrooms are very nutritious and fantastic. So I feel like I can sort of embrace that experience now. Look, it's been a very far-reaching chat, and I hope we can talk again on some other topics in future, Mel.
Sure.
Now, as we start to wind up, I also wanted to acknowledge when you talked about going into your body and actually exploring it. I have also got a meditation I do where I put a little Lego person into my body with a GoPro and a microphone, and they go in and they do a little like journalism footage and tell me what's going on, and then we change it, and then they come back out, and I give them a hug and chocolate and put them to bed. So I feel like we must be from the same wavelength at some level, because that's helped me so much. Just being able to internally navigate. So I just wanted to start winding up and actually just show some of the amazing things that you have put out into the world, as well as your soap. It's so funny, isn't it? It's like, clean up the world, wash your hands of that which does not belong to you, or never belonged to you. So this is one of your gratitude diaries, which you kindly sent me, and I have to admit, I've been using your diaries for a while, and like every day. They have so much energy, is the first thing I noticed. They're really well made, and just to let people know, I'm not being paid to do this. I really only interview people I want to interview. You can try sending me a guest post, you'll find that out pretty quick. But geez, Mel, there's just a lot of love in this book. And you've been doing them for how long?
12 years.
12 years, goodness me. And do you find sort of that you're making more of them each year, or was there sort of a peak?
Yeah, I've had a 100% business growth per year since I've started. So every year.
Wow, that's amazing.
I've doubled by 100%. So
goodness me.
Yeah.
How many did you start with, just if I can ask?
500.
Gosh, Mel, and how many are you sort of making at the moment?
17,000.
Oh, dude, high five. I like that number 8 that just came out. So I'll review your diary separately, but I just want to acknowledge that this is something you put into the world that I picked up a while ago, and that's one of the reasons I contacted you, and we've sort of connected now.
Yeah.
And just they talk to you. Your products come with this kind of like chatty Cathy thing where I'll be writing and it'll just kind of just go blah blah blah, and I'll go, wow, it's like it's like it's alive.
Yep.
Because the way you've written it, you talk in the first person about things that have happened in your life, including the 11/11. You talk about the astrology, but it's just so personal. I feel like you're there with me, but not in a creepy way.
Not in a creepy way.
That makes sense because, it's I have a bit of a thing where I often get sucked into cults, or I used to get sucked into them before I practiced all my psychic protection and developed my own abilities. And, I used to, for example, just short, and we'll wind up. When I was little, the Jehovah's Witnesses used to come to my door, and I used to use all my pocket money and buy all their stuff. And I always felt kind of similar in terms it was like my friends had come to visit. And it was very sad for me, actually, the day that my mum discovered they were selling materials to a 6 or 8 year old and chased them away. I was like, oh, Mum, they're like my mates. They give me all my supplies. But all my books were from Jehovah's Witnesses. I used to give them like 20 cents. And so, I suppose that's incredibly unethical, but let's face it, it was the 80s.
Yes.
And when I look back, it gave me an enormous love of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps an understanding of the sales process.
Mm-hmm.
Get them while they're young.
I thank you for noticing that, Sarah. Look, in the dream time before we had computers and typing, the way that wisdom was shared was through story, and I was really aware of that I don't want to be a guru or someone that claims to have knowledge or someone who knows. What I wanted to do was to share my stories so that could activate the story in you. Yeah. And so with each article that I write, I set a very, very big intention behind the article. So there's a lot of magic that goes on behind each story. And then I tell the story with my magic spell that's woven through the story, and that's designed to pop you open in a similar place that I was popped. So I'm really just opening doors.
Yeah, and I must admit, when I first came across your diary, that did take me aback of how personal you are. It's not something I had experienced having a science background, and then a lot of the New Age movement is about sort of the meaning of life in five pages for $10,000.
Yeah, so exactly.
I open your book, and if it's okay, I'll read a tiny bit, then we'll wind up, if that's all right.
Sure.
So, of course, I have opened it to the law of non-intervention, and if it's okay, just read a couple paragraphs. So this is from Mel's Gratitude Diary this year. It may be no secret that the musings I offer in this Gratitude Diary are a direct expression of something that has been shown to me or which I have navigated as a personal experience. Last year I had a comment from a soul on a social media salon saying, I can't help feeling that this book is all about the author's stuff, and it was accompanied by a cranky face emoji. I just love that you put that in, can I say? I responded honestly, I cannot advise, support, or even have a conversation about something that I have not had a personal experience with. It is my experience that informs my awareness. My intention for this journal is simply to share my journey and therefore my learnings. That's it. Oh, Mel, that just sets you apart. I don't think I've ever had a diary I've been keeping diaries for 35 years. I have had hundreds of diaries. You are brave. Talking about your critics with a cranky face emoji in a book that goes to 17,000 bloody people. This is why we need to be friends. I mean, you are brave. So I'm a big fan of your work. I look forward to more conversations. I'm so grateful we could have this little short understanding of you. And look, how can people follow your work? Website, accounts, what's the best way for them?
So we've got a Pinterest. What's that? Gratitude Diary Australia, and then I'm givingthanks.com.au online.
Great. So I'll make sure that's all in the post for this. Thank you everyone who's been watching. This has been an interview about meditation and soap with Melanie Spears, creator of the Gratitude Diary, which is a worldwide experience now, as well as a Family Constellations practitioner. I'm guessing that'll have to be another time because I also love that modality. Sure. Yeah. So thank you so much, Mel. Do you have any last words before we wind up?
Yes. Meditate with your eyes open.
Chris always tells me that. He's a gnome as well.
Uh-huh.
You just reminded me, you know my favorite Bible story, if you can't tell, I was super religious, is the one where they're choosing soldiers, so they get all these men to go to the river, And the way they choose the soldiers is they ask them well, they obviously they race them really hard to see if they're fit. And then they take them to a river to watch how they drink. Have you heard this story?
No.
The men who put their heads down to drink are dismissed. The men who keep their eyes up and bring the water to their mouth, they keep them because they're the best soldiers.
Wow. Staying present with what is. I love that.
That affected me, that story. So thank you so much. This has been Sarah from Sarah.com. Facebook, The Numbers Queen, and Instagram, Sarah1111. 1111 peace signs to all of you, and we look forward to more fabulous chats with this amazing being. And just thank you, everyone, for your support for this meditation series. See you next time.
Bye, honey. Bye-bye.